When it comes to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Road America is one of the most toughest tracks you'll ever see, and one of the most entertaining ones in all of the United States and the world. For today, it'll be the backdrop for what should be an exciting, wild adventure today. It's the 60-plus racing adventures, where multiple championship battles will be set to unfold for the season finale here for the 12th race of the season for the series. It'll be all up next here on RaceSpotTV, live from Road America. Welcome everyone to RaceSpotTV for today's coverage of the season finale for the 60-plus racing adventures, live today from Road America, one of the most beautiful racetracks in all of America, and one of the most challenging for sure for this 4-mile circuit. I'm Justin Prince. Today in the broadcast booth, in the production seat today with me is Hugo Ruiz for what should be an entertaining afternoon of racing for sure. For multiple drivers, it's a chance to try and seal themselves a championship. As you see this tough track, they're going to have to tame today with 78 degrees being the air temp, 55 degrees humidity, mostly cloudy skies here for this just under 4-mile circuit. 18 laps for the two races here, a unique series where all the drivers are age 60 and up, and for a lot of them, they're trying to have the best runs possible because a championship battle is underway for the season finale. 4 drivers have a chance to compete for the championship and eligible for points. Unsby, Lawrence, Morgan, and Van de Ven are all within range to potentially take away the championship. Fiddler's in 5th, Karkner, is in 6th. Poole, Rosejan, Hill, and Robertson round out your top 10 for the road championship. There's also the team championship that is also getting very close. Just 3 points separate Team Otto and Team Morgan for the team championship. Old Speed, Rusty Nut, and the Italian Turtles round out your point standings for the team championship. There's also the 70-plus division that's also been sealed off, where it has been Unsby who has been the main show for this season. He has been a dominant force, of course, as you've seen at the top of the standings here. A couple drivers are trying to get qualifying times, specifically Riley, as we might have seen, but the last time we were on for the broadcast, he was the last car then. He's now the last car on track. Bill Lawrence has the pole just by a little bit over Stephen Karkner. Behind them is Danelle Fitterer, along with Stefan Rosen, Mark Robertson, John Morgan, Joseph Van de Ven, Manny Gridden, Andrew Fiddler, and Franz Brink early round out the top 10 with qualifying. That should lock things up here, as right now just about everyone has turned up times. So why don't we go up to your starting grid for today, because this is one of 2 races where if you have the highest finishing time, that's the most points you end up earning for the race weekend. So we'll see who will be able to position themselves for race number 1. Today, Bill Lawrence is on the pole from Team Morgan. Stephen Karkner is on the outside in the 2nd spot. Danelle Fitterer is in 3rd with Stefan Rosen in the row number 2 and 4th spot. Mark Robertson, also part of Team Morgan, starts up near the front along with John Morgan from Team Otto. Joseph Van de Ven starts in 7th, with Team Old Speed having Manning Gridden starting off in the 8th spot. In row number 5, it's Andrew Fiddler and Franz Brink. Following them is Kenneth Dummer as well as Bruce Poole. Behind them, just outside the dozen range, is Ramajo De Pasca, along with Kevin Baldwin and Along with behind them in 15th and 16th, Richard Colomb and Gerard Florigen from Team Otto. 17th and 18th is Joel Martin and John G. Hill. And inside the top 20, Charles Gilly and Jay Friels. Outside that top 20 range, a few more drivers sit there. Paul Hamilton, Ralph Kammerer, along with David Riley, who you've seen on track. He did not complete the time there. He'll be starting right out the back, 2.8 seconds behind the pole time. It's a standing start for today's action here. 18 laps is the distance for today for both races. And now we'll see who can position themselves to have the best race for today. For race number 1, they're waiting all for the lights. We'll see how they get things together here. It should be a fun, wild, and fun day here. Lights are off, green lights are going, and away we go. A couple drivers stalled on the start, still stalling off of the back, but mostly clean once they got on by, as a few of the drivers who stalled end up cycling all the way to the back after that one. They go into the tight turn 1, and Hugh Jackson and down the front stretch. Involves a couple of the drivers who stalled there. They're flipping up and over. 2 drivers stopped on the front stretch. Along with them is David Riley, along with John Unsby, who did not record a time and ended up being at the back of the grid, being the points leader at this point. Absolutely unbelievable to start things off for this event as they move their way down the Maurienne sweep. Moving underneath the Sargento, bridge, and move themselves off to turn number 5. Side by side, battling for the second spot, is right now off to an early start. It's been a good and clean start for Stephen Karkner to be able to pull away from the double files. They're still side by side, battling for second. Still going now to single file action now as everyone tries to get themselves cleanly recovered after what was an up and down start to this 18-lap race. Everyone trying to get themselves into the best positions. They work their way down the racetrack. 2 DNFs at this point of the race as Carter currently leaves over Lawrence right now. Federer is in 3rd spot. Robertson in 4th. Rosejen inside the top 5 in the 5th spot. Just behind them right now, Jos Van de Ven, you follow along with him in 6th spot. He's getting a run with the toe, trying to move towards a dangerous spot to get a pass, almost sawing off his front nose. Trying to find any way he can, trying to position himself for Canada corner, almost getting a dive bomb inside, able to get the position to stick. And that was a risky move, but able to get it to stick through Canada as he's up into the top 5 and away from the double file. Meanwhile, John Morgan moves up to 6th. Rosejen back to 7th now as Grinnon's trying to move himself up another spot. They move themselves up down the front stretch and complete lap number 1 with Stephen Karkner able to pull off to a 1-second lead in this one. It has been a clean start for him. Remember, he started on the outside line in 2nd spot. Should be seeing a replay up on your screen for what just happened with the crash that happened on the start. 2 drivers ended up stalling in that situation, and then it became calamity quarter after once they got going because one driver was a bit slowish on that, ended up collecting Riley, ended up collecting Unsby, and now ended up having to have more pit stops. John Morgan now into the pits in this situation as well, as he ended up flipping out of turn number 1. Drivers making mistakes across the racetrack early on in the race, as this is becoming risky. Meanwhile, risky for Mark Robertson as he crashes into a tire wall at turn number 5. Huge moment for him as he tried to really bonsai move it into turn number 5 down the Maurienne sweep. Almost got the position to stick, but too much wheel spin. Ends up getting him a front nose damage and ends up his race number 1. 4 drivers cycled off to the pits. You see it up on the replay screen right now with Robertson. This is what just happened with Robertson, where he was trying to make that pass and ended up going too fast on the acceleration to get back on the gas. Ends up ruining off his day. Wedged up in the tires to the point where his back wheels weren't even touching on the track. As it has been a bit of a calamity situation for your first 2 laps here for the 60 Plus Racing Adventures. Once again, Karkner is currently off to the lead. Bill Lawrence, he's currently off to a clean start in 2nd spot. Federer tries to hold on to the 3rd spot because moving up and quick has been Jos Van de Ven. He is closing up into the 4th spot now with a mistake and gaining a bit of time here and there. Last time by, it was a 2-minute 14.4 for him. You can see 4/10 back, closing up down the Road America straight. One of the best passing zones on the racetrack. This time by, in terms of lap time, just a tiny bit, 1/100th of a second faster than Lawrence, as he just can't get the position he needs to be able to get this pass set up right now. So it's going to take at least another lap to set it up on Fitterer for the time being. Meanwhile, Lawrence, he's losing a little bit of time here. He had a 2:03.4. Kartner had a 2:03.5 last time, but down in the first sector, losing a lot of time. Meanwhile, stopped cars on the track outside of turn number 1. Among them, I believe that is Kucera. That was a part of the damage. Let's take a look at the replay because this just happened out of turn number 1. This is Ralph Kucera having contact wheel to wheel, ends up sending him around and spinning. He's able to keep on going, but he's way off the pace after that one. Check out one more replay here. They was side by side. Just probably didn't expect the contact, as you see there. Just that one little bit bounces up the right sides, up the racetrack. And that was with the contact with Team Italian Turtles' Bonacera right there. That was for 15th spot. He drops a lot of time after that situation. Meanwhile, position battles have gotten really interesting again because now Fitterer has moved himself up, because I believe we might have just lost somebody, because Van der Ven is now up into 3rd spot. Grosjean now up. Bill Lawrence has cycled himself all the way back to the back of the group you see on your screen. So Lawrence losing a lot of time in this situation. He was starting to really fall back a bit from the lead car and Kartner across that entire lap. Lawrence is really having a situation where he's dropped down to the top 5. Can't afford to have any mistakes in this situation, but now he's going to lose a lot of time here. Last time by 2 seconds off the pace after being able to hold on to the 2nd spot before then. And it all was really set up before then by some bull moves. Meanwhile, bull moves down the straightaway. 3 wide going into turn number 1. As Grosjean almost went off the racetrack. Van der Ven able to hang on with Fitterer, able to keep the middle groove. They'll try and outbrake each other into turn number 3. Fitterer outbrakes, contact behind. Lawrence has a huge amount of contact on the front wing, on the right side of the wing. After a huge lost amount of his speed, that is on the back of Grosjean's car. Grosjean has no damage on him, but huge amount of speed loss going to be here for Lawrence for the rest of the way here. Huge amount of damage. He'll just let everyone by, and Lawrence's issues are compacted here. They still were side by side, by the way, for the 2nd spot. Van der Ven trying to hold on Fitterer on the outside line, able to make the pass stick. He moves up into 2nd as they work their way through some lap traffic here who have dealt with damage in the early portions of this race, as Flossagen is very slow in front of 2nd spot. That was right through hurry downs, as he'll just move out of the way. Close call there. Remember, some of these drivers had to take tows and go into the pits to get some repairs, or started off with a lot of damage. So they end up losing some time here. A lot of drivers trying to get themselves dealt with. Kenneth Dummer and Jay Fields are both in the pits, along with Ralph Kucera, who has now just made it to the pits. Multiple drivers in situations where they have lost a lot of speed and pace and have to get a lot of repairs in this one. Everyone single file up near the front. Trying to catch up now is Jos Van der Ven up to the leader. Steven Kartner is up to a 2-second flat lead because of all the passing and battling going on behind him. You see him up the hill right now. One driver dives into the pits for his required pit stop, and it's going to be Steven Grosjean. Remember, he had some contact on the back end as well. Nothing visible, maybe potential suspension damage, or deciding to take his pit stop now, as you do have to potentially have your pit stop for this race. He'll come in, pass by all the drivers getting repairs, and go from there, try and use strategy for the later part of the race. How about that for a wild first 5 laps of 18 for race number 1 of today's season finale. It's been a wild start to this one as we go back to the line of start for 2nd all the way up to about 7th spot right now, as Jos Van der Ven is leading that group. Fitterer is on the charge, meanwhile, for Team Old Speed. He closes up speed. The lap car behind them goes up into the grass and stays out of trouble in Morgan. And they continue to try and duke it on out. Fitterer can't get the run he needs to. This is in the middle sector, very tough to pass. But it's still crucial to keep up your line, because you lose speed in the middle sector all the way out towards the exit of the carousel. You'll be ending up in a situation where you could get dive bombed through Canada corner. They're about 3/10 apart here. Fitterer going a bit more of a higher line to try and diamond it off for the exit of the carousel. Can't get really any speed closed up here. Still at the same distance. They've been able to pull on away now from fourth on back at this point to be able to use the draft from each other and try and close on up. Fitterer now closing a bit. They're closing huge amounts of speed up to the leader now in Kartner, using the big time difference, able to get on by. Van de Ven has a bad exit out of Canada, just able to still hang on up in front of Fitterer. Very difficult for Fitterer to set this up. He's going to have to set this up now for Road America Straight to try and get to the bottom side. Will Van de Ven go for the defensive line or stay on the high side? He'll stay up on the high side towards the wall. No sign of a defensive line, no sign of enough speed. There's the defensive line right there across the start and finish line. Van de Ven about a 10th off. Multiple drivers coming out of the pits at the same time they have to deal with here. And this is going to force them up to the high side. As Van de Ven able to get her on around. Fitterer gets around. And Fitterer got held up a little bit with the lap traffic coming out of the pits. Manning Grennan will also move on by. He's in the 5th spot at this point as they close on quickly to Kartner, who is up by just 1.1 seconds. Lost about a full second, half a second I should say, the last time by with the traffic. 0.2 of a second lost, in fact, down the Moraine sweep as they approach now the Corvette Bridge. Wider exit from Kartner. He's trying to push, trying to be able to keep this lead and try and keep some distance here. He's losing about a 10th per section at this point, it seems, or a 10th per straightaway. So the difference between him and Van de Ven and Fitterer is closing quick. Down to 0.7 of a second before the entry. Uses the late braking, able to time up the exit perfectly. Kartner has to be able to watch what's going on, probably looking at his back mirror, up and down to try and see what is going on here as we are approaching 12 laps to go in race number 1. Kartner still trying to keep himself moving forward on a bit of a defensive line, approaching Canada, weaving their way down the kettle bottoms. Up to Canada now. This is now down to a half a second gap. Pass could be done within the lap as Van de Ven and Fitterer are both using the draft together to close up this gap. Van de Ven is now sniffing and whiffing that toe that Kartner has in his Pro Mazda. Perfect exit. Kartner's really pushing on exits now. And there goes Van de Ven for the required pit stop. He comes in now. Remember, you do have one required pit stop. He'll come in now and try and pull a bit of strategy just before he's able to take the lead. He's going to come on in on his own in this situation, meaning it's going to now be Fitterer and Kartner battling it out for the front. Behind them, it is Grennan and Fitterer battling now for 3rd spot. Fitterer falls back to 4th, and Grennan will now make the pass, able to move on forward and quickly. A full 1.2 seconds faster on that pass lap was Manning Grennan. They're all doing what they need to try and get maximum points here, try and get the best runs they can, especially with the championship battles unfolding. Remember, with the championship battles coming into the day, it was Unspeed, Lawrence, Morgan, and Van de Ven to watch for. And Van de Ven is doing what he needs to, being the farthest out, needing maximum points to be able to get the best run. Needing the bad luck to continue for Unspeed in race number 2. You see now Van de Ven, he is currently in the 10th spot. We'll see how he cycles out by the end of the run, but he has been one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. The last fastest lap of the race for Van de Ven was a 2:02.4. That is the fastest lap of the entire race today. We'll see if he's going to be able to cycle himself up to clean air by the time the pit stops happen. Still battling though. This is going to be Grennan once again with Fitterer. And he's able to keep it up to single file, but has to go defensive line potentially. Approaching Canada, there's the swing. Gridden can't dive it in though with the speed. Too risky to trying to avoid contact there. You see the miles per hour speed presented by N1 Design. About a 124 plus miles per hour entering the final corner, turn number 14 after crossing the Hawk Tunnel. And now going up the racetrack, up the Road America straight. There goes Gridden into the pits. He's going to follow your leader and Steven Carter up into the pits for their required stop with about 11 laps to go. So both of them coming on in. Pit stop times today ranging about the 12.6 to the 15-second range depending on the timing and the amount of fuel. They'll slowly crawl on in and go from there as we're midway through the cycle. That puts Donnell Fitterer up at the front over Andrew Fiedler, who are both out in clean open air. So Team Old Speed doing what they need to do at least for now. Can he be able to cycle out in front? It's going to be right now close to see if he can be able to cycle out. There they come out of the pit stops now. 13.5 exactly for Carter and Gridden. Both of them move on out. There goes Carter, able to get in front. He's able to come out first out of that row of traffic right in front of the traffic involving Grisgen. That was close calls there on the pit exit, and look who's there. That is Van de Ven, a part of the traffic there. Right in front is Carter. Perfect timing there, but can he hold on is going to be the question here from here on out with the rest of the traffic as they come on in. Right now, it is Fitterer, Fiedler, DePasca, Colomb, and Hamilton in the top 5 as Van de Ven gets the pass done with the lockup coming from Carter. Rosgen also able to make the pass as Carter starting to feel the pressure from the tire wear at the end of the last run. Now he's got Gridden also starting to close on in. So Van de Ven is in virtual P number 1 for the time being. Right now it's a difference of about 41.6 seconds to the leader and Fitterer as they come down the front stretch. Fitterer's going to go. He's going to stay out one more time. Try and stretch this out even more so, hoping there's more battle. Fiedler also stays, DePasca also stays out, and Colomb, the next car to watch for, he will go in from the 4th spot. Let's go back to the virtual P1 battle because it's heating up once again because Van de Ven is trying to hold on in front of Rosgen. As we're showing this up on your screen, it is very tight packed action through Canada. Carter and Gridden are both all trying to get themselves sorted out here. Van de Ven leads the train of Pro Mazdas as they come out of turn number 14 and down the Road America straight. Coming up the hill here, let's see if they can end up going out in front of the traffic in the pits. Colomb is up on the jacks trying to get tires. Riley's already out. Looks like we have one driver that might have pulled off here for a split second, pardon me. And it is the way it's cycling out. A couple drivers ended up having bad cycles here as Van de Ven almost had a bad turn number 1, had to go defensive, barely held on to virtual P1. He's currently in the 5th spot, which is Fiedler, DePasca, and Hamilton out in front of them. Rosgen, meanwhile, will lead the train of Mazdas behind them. Here comes Carter with the run, coming down the Morient sweep. Down on the bottom side, perfect line for him, 2 by 2, just about behind Van de Ven. Rosgen gets a good run, but he's on the non-preferred line as he'll go up the racetrack, almost has it spin around. He's stuck side by side under the Corvette bridge. He'll just have to let the position go for now. He goes up into the grass, almost slid up the racetrack into an Armco barrier as he'll cycle in behind Carter and just in front of Gridden, able to just keep it on the racetrack as they stay single file for now. Meanwhile, Fitterer is coming now past down the front stretch, and he'll come in for his scheduled pit stop. Here's the delta to watch for. 42.5 seconds is the delta as him and Fiedler come right on into the pits. Can they keep the gap is the question. One of the slower pit cycles and pit deltas on the entire iRacing service. Speed limit, remember, 45 miles per hour as they try and get the best speed and try and have a stop here. Ven meanwhile leads the train of cars as they work their way down to turn number 14 as they just are starting to pull into their stalls. A few others are joining them, but this is what to watch for right here. Ven leads the train. Karkner trying to get a run off of Road America straight to try and get the pass. They move themselves up the hill. Here comes the pass from Karkner. Karkner tries to get the lead right on by as they cycle their way up to the front. Just about here because here comes Fiddler. Fiddler on the exit. Ven has to back off. 3 wide situation. There goes Karkner up into the sandbox as Karkner loses all the spots as possible up the racetrack. And he cycles all the way back to 6th. Guess what though? Donnell Fitterer is up to a 1.4 second lead up on his own. It's gonna have to be tough though to try and keep that because he was in the battle with Ven before the pit stops. It's up to 1.1 seconds as they try and sort themselves out behind because as you can see, Steven Karkner trying to recover from that very wide turn 1, trying to make the outside work for Fiddler. Able to do so to be able to get on the preferred line and able to make the pass. That's to get himself to 6th. Right now, Ven though, down to a 1.4 second gap. Having a hard time trying to close here, but they have traffic in front that could help. Could be a potential pick situation. That is Ralph Kucera that is up in front of the leaders right now. That could be used as a pick by Fitterer to try and get some extra time here. That we are approaching lap number 11 this time by for the 60+ Racing Adventures season finale from Road America here on RaceSpotTV. Right now, it's Rosjan trying to get the run behind Ven. Britton trying to get himself close back up. He's back to 1.1 seconds with Karkner losing a ton of time from that very tight corner from turn number 1 for with the pit exit. You see him. He's one of the faster drivers on the racetrack. Kucera is now off the racetrack, in fact, to where he's not going to be a factor with the leaders. The leaders right now are a 1.1 second gap up at the front. Fitterer trying to get as much speed as he can, but Ven has one positive. He has Rosjan, who is helping push with the toe from behind a little bit, as well as having the faster car of the race. That time by with the cycle is 2:34 overall with the pit stop for Fitterer. 2:03 flat for Ven. Rosjan with a 2:03.175. That is your top 3 right now, trying to close up the gap, and they're doing so big time. Something going on with Fitterer with the speed down the straightaway with the toe. You see now Fitterer waiting, hoping that he can pounce to try and get himself back into the top 5 with Karkner. He's at the back of this train with Bill Lawrence back in the race in 7th spot just behind him. He's more focused, of course, on Karkner. Following line for line, matching the lines to try and keep up with the speed. It's about a 1.2 second gap. Both of them, in fact, go in the grass to the point where they're driving that hard. Both of them mess up the entry in the carousel, but here's the pass for the lead. Jos Ven going on the outside, able to make it work out of the carousel. And Jos Ven, he's been the fastest machine for much of the day today, able to make the pass stick for the first part. But now can he make it stick through Canada? Because Donnell Fitterer with the switchback is now going to go on the inside of Canada. Very close. Ven pushed up the racetrack. Here comes Rosjan on the bottom side. Able to make the pass to move to 2nd. Almost got the position to work with Stefan Rosjan now in 2nd. Ven now losing a bit of time on the entrance of turn 14 as well. Big moment from them there. Rosjan will go immediately for the defensive line. Rosjan wants the lead, knows he has the chance, moves to the outside line. Can he make it work? Possible 3 wide as Ven falls right, Rosjan right up to the bottom. And Fitterer able to get the pass to stick, as in to cycle back to second. But Van de Ven will be on the inside. Dive bombs it in. Closes up on Roesgen. Can't make the exit speed work, as Fitterer is going to be having a chance to go for the pass with Grinnen now up in the battle. This is going to help Karkner along with Fitterer as well to catch back up to the top 4. Fitterer now goes for the pass, going for P2 once again. Van de Ven up on the high side. He tries to get outside of Roesgen, but on that hard line on the outside, can't make it stick up the rumble strips. Van de Ven outbreaks Fitterer to be able to make the outside work. He'll get the spot as Fitterer gets loose. He'll lose the 3rd spot with that situation as Manny Grinnen falls back to 4th, but here comes Steven Karkner. He's back into the battle along with Andrew Fitterer and Bill Lawrence. Karkner pushed up, moves back, stays in the 5th spot for the time being. And for Stefan Roesgen, this is what he wants to see in his back mirror, because he's gone to a full 2nd lead with all the shuffling behind him. Can Van de Ven now keep the 2nd spot? Can they stay lined up here, because Manny Grinnen wants the spot? They work their way through the kettle bottles and through the trees. Try and go them through to Canada. Will the pass work into Canada as they go side by side? Van de Ven, though, on the bottom once again, able to make the pass stick again. Hard place to pass on the outside with Canada. Very dangerous part of the racetrack as well if you push too hard and outbreak yourself. Don't want that situation. Down to 0.7 of a second, by the way, is the lead with everyone with the toe. They match the line, meanwhile, Roesgen, as he goes for the defensive line, back up the hill, up onto the outside line. They cross the front stretch and the start and finish line coming to lap number 13. Not a single chance to breathe for any of these competitors in this race today. They almost go side by side, 2 abreast, as Grinnen try to go on the outside of Van de Ven. Fitterer trying to go and stay on the inside of Karkner. Both of them want to go. Grinnen almost climbed up the back wing of Van de Ven. Meanwhile, coming out of turn number 3, had to back off big time. Now they go down the Maurienne sweep. And Van de Ven with the speed, having a big time push, 0.3 of a second back with the toe once again. He'll try and position himself for turn number 5. Very early braking, ties everyone up. Big time trouble at turn number 5. This is going to collect 3-4 different drivers, as it's going to be Grinnen collected in this one. Fitterer had a great run. He's collected. Karkner smashes off the walls. And a huge, huge implication there. Van de Ven had an earlier break than everyone expected. Tied everyone up. And with the back contact, with the late break, that ends off 3 drivers' days. Karkner, Fitterer, all in the pits. You've seen a couple drivers having to go in the grass with evasive action as well in that situation. That was Manny Grinnen, who escaped with minimal damage. We'll see this one more time. As you see teammates, in fact, colliding in that situation with that. Just Grinnen was able to survive with severe damage, in fact, to keep going. Karkner almost survived, but then with the damage, couldn't keep the handling together and smacked off the concrete to make things worse for him. Just no breath whatsoever with that situation. That set things up now for the top 2 to pull on away, because Roesgen, along with Van de Ven, are now on their own by 3.5 seconds. It's down to 0.4 of a second. Coming down the Road America straight, coming to turn number 1 once again. We have about 6 laps to go on lap 14. Van de Ven, major speed, major pass, and he just let him on through. Roesgen able to move him, and cycles back to second with Van de Ven now able to make the pass. Now question is, can he pull away with just pure speed? We haven't been able to really see that for much of the day, the way this is run. Just behind them, Bill Lawrence. Remember him? Remember, his teammate had a bit of contact in the situation. Now he's trying to hold on for the 3rd spot for a podium finish in race number 1. Andrew Findler moves to the bottom side. Moving down the Maurienne sweep once again into turn number 5. Andrew Findler able to make the pass work again. Perfect passing spot for many of these drivers today. And Andrew Findler might have to work with him a bit to be able to catch up. Remember, gap is now up to about 4.2 seconds up the road. to these guys in Van de Ven and Rosgen. They've just been able to pull away from the rest of the pack all from after that situation, remember. Question is, can they sustain it? Rosgen will be having to be patient here with the pass, 0.3 of a second back. He'll work his way now through the kink. Really great entrance and apex through the kink. This is going to really send him up through Canada. Perfect match, perfect throttle control through Canada, able to make the pass stick as he's able to push himself back to the lead. Near perfect timing for the pass through the kink. And meanwhile, something going on with Manning Grennan. Something with the motor, with the revs, he is saying on the team radio. He is off the racetrack. He had been in a decent situation despite all the damage to be in a top 10. But that huge damage everywhere on the Pro Mazda ends off his day over-revving the engine, potentially with the shifting, potentially the damage contributing. Ends off his day with a hand grenade as he goes off into the sand, toes it off. He's done for this race. Meanwhile, going back to the third spot for the battles, Andrew Fiddler again with Bill Lawrence. Lawrence will see if he can get the pass on back because Fiddler got the pass done down the Morian sweep into turn number 5. Can they do it once again? Going underneath the Sargento Bridge once again. Bill Lawrence again showing the difference in speed down the straight when you have a tow with this car. This time, though, it's not enough of a tow to be able to position himself for the pass. Takes the apex wide, in fact. And that's going to lose him a 10th right there to Fiddler. He'll have to try once again. It's going to take a couple passes, couple laps, I should say, to position himself once again to even position himself to get into the pass in this race. Why don't we go back to 5th spot meanwhile for the time being, because someone that's been very quiet in race number 1 today, Ramaggio De Pasca. He is on his own by about 6 seconds, 7.8 seconds up the road. The Team Italian Turtles driver is in the top 5. Been very quiet. Speed has been in the 2:03.1s as the fastest. Pace is about the 2:04s. That's a decent pace enough to stay where he's at, and with the amount of time left to be able to stick where he's at this point. Just a very good driver in terms of the pace today to be able to sustain himself quietly into this top 5. Just no one to work with for much of the race today to be able to do so. Meanwhile, you're seeing some more drivers working their way up through Canada. That is Franz Brink, who is up in the 6th spot. Also very quiet. It's about 4.5 seconds until the next car back to him, who's in 6th in the 7th spot. Richard Colomb right now is in that spot here. But we had to break up that for a second because the pass for the lead's going down the Road America straight once again. Stefan Rosgen able to make the pass once again. Able to get it in front of Van de Ven down the straightaway once again. Up to a 0.4 of a second lead once again. This has been going back and forth for much of this second stint for this race. That time by Rosgen may have been the slower car, but he had the faster speed to be able to get the pass done. Up to a 0.5 second lead now over Van de Ven. Can Van de Ven close it up again? We've seen him do it multiple times. Late braking this time. Able to time up the throttle on the apex to have the perfect exit. Closes the gap down to an R10. Able to close up the gap once again if he gets this perfectly. Loses the 10th there, but trouble for Andrew Fiddler. Fiddler is off the racetrack in turn number 5. Went up into the grass. Quick replay here presented by RaceSpotTV once again. It was a huge moment here for Fiddler. Remember, battling for the 3rd spot, able to troll it up for some time, but locked up the gas and the brakes on the exit. If you hit the gas here too hard, that's what happens there. That's what happened to Fiddler. As meanwhile, Rosgen keeps it out in front for now. Question is, will he be there for the checkered flag? Did he make the move too quick? This is going to be a wild finish here for race number 1. Coming to 2 laps to go, this time by going their way through Canada. You follow along with Van de Ven. You see the way he's working the wheel, trying to use the throttle to his advantage as well. Down to 0.3. That tow has been the main factor today if you've had the car to be able to keep up to the top speeds. And today for Van de Ven, he's been a part of that with Rosjan all day long. They go up the hill, under the Gardner-Denver Bridge, up towards the front stretch. Van de Ven tries to get the run. Being patient here as he stays on the outside, tries to possession himself the pass. And where did Van de Ven go? Van de Ven just disappeared from the racetrack. Something happened. Huge situation. Technical issue for Van de Ven at the worst possible time, because that was the battle for the race win with 2 to go. Stefan Rosjan will now win this race because he's alone by 6.3 seconds. Are you kidding me? I'm just speechless here because Bill Lawrence is going to get himself a second place. Meanwhile, Romengo DePasca will now cycle up to third, but still going to have to fight for it because Andrew Fiedler, who went off track, is trying to salvage a podium spot. Unbelievable way to end off race number 1 with this situation. DePasca, really wide entrance, able to make the apex work. Hits a huge bump though on the exit, but able to maintain the speed. That was right on the rumble strips coming towards the edge of the kitty litter. As DePasca going to have to fight hard to keep this spot. This is about 17 seconds back from the race leader. 10.7 seconds back to second. This is the closest battle on the racetrack for position. Fiedler going to have one more lap, 1.5 laps, I should say, to get the pass done. But this is how the great drivers have been able to do it today. Time out the carousel perfectly for a great run and be able to time up the throttle control and the gears through the kink. Fiedler able to do so this time. Gonna have to go side by side, almost in the grass, almost close contact there. Very close to wheel-to-wheel contact at the back end as DePasca fights hard. Going to have to go on the outside here for Canada. Diving in is Fiedler. Outbreaks him to the corner, and it's going to be DePasca. Going to have to go for the switchback. Can't get the switchback to work. He has one more lap to get it on back as the white flag waves for Stefan Rosjan. Stefan Rosjan has been able to pull on away now after the technical issue for the second place runner in Jos Van de Ven. He is out of the race for race number 1. Has to recover for race number 2 if he wants a shot for the championship. Meanwhile, Bill Lawrence, he's secured himself a second spot. For the third spot, though, it's not over yet because Fiedler is battling with DePasca again. Here comes DePasca. Able to outbreak into the entrance again on the passing line as Romicho DePasca able to move to third spot. Immediately goes to the defensive line. Question is, did he make the pass too early? There's about a half a lap to go, but this is where one of the biggest chances to gain speed are. Fiedler, he's about 4/10 back. Can't get in the slipstream because DePasca has been on the defensive line the whole way around. Now moves up to the preferred apex line. Able to gun it faster and able to gain 3/10 on the exit. DePasca may have sealed himself a third place finish. With that, able to have a near perfect line to be able to get himself switched up here. Fiedler, though, can he get the carousel in the kink timed up? Because that was where DePasca really had to defend from Fiedler last time. They're going to work their way now through the carousel now. DePasca with a higher apex. Fiedler diamonds the corner on the exit. He's going to have a perfect gear down and a perfect throttle through the kink to gain time. Near perfect that time. Able to get it down to 0.6 of a second. I don't know if it's going to be enough though. But for Stefan Rosjan, he's going to come away with a dominating amount of time. 8.5 second gap for the race 1 victory and gets himself max points for the season finale for the 60+ racing adventures here at Road America. Bill Lawrence going to secure himself a second place finish, meanwhile. Falls back a few seconds, and for DePasca, that perfect timing in terms of defensive line through the moraine sweep was able to get himself a podium finish. Very quiet podium finish, mind you, to get the third. Andrew Fiedler, one mistake cost him a potential third spot, still finishes in fourth, with Franz Brink cycling to fifth. Richard Colomb in 6th spot. 7th, Bruce Poole. And John G. Hill leads them off to 8th with Paul Hamilton able to come away with the 9th spot with Joel Martin just behind him with lap traffic. Charles Gilly rounds out your top 10 with this one. Meanwhile, Manning Gridden, he had major situations. He's now back on the racetrack, trying to hold on to any kind of time he can at this point. This is 0.6 of a second gap right now. This is for battling for about the 15th spot. This is going to go into Canada here. It was a very bad luck situation with the damage and with the motor situation. Can Kenneth Dummer, who was, mind you, having to get damage himself repaired in this one, can he recover to get himself up for at least a top 15 finish? I don't think it's going to be enough time. Dummer gets the late braking, can't get it timed up with the apex. That's going to be Manning Gridden, who had a lot of damage here for parts of this race, had to come in, get some repairs after a motor situation, coming away with the top 15 finish. Not what he probably wanted here, but able to salvage something for race number 1. They'll have a chance to try and reset and get max points for race number 2 in the next little bit here. But let's run down your finishing order here for this one. For race number 1, unofficial results up on your screen. Stefan Rosgen able to come away with the victory after technical issues for some drivers and chaos behind him for others. Bill Lawrence, though, able to salvage a 2nd place finish for Team Morgan. Team Italian Turtles in 3rd, Ramaggio De Pasca. Behind them is Andrew Fiddler in 4th, Franz Brink in 5th. Ricard Colomb quietly came away with 6th with Bruce Poole, John Hill, Paul Hamilton, and Charles Gilly rounding out your top 10. Behind them, just outside the top 10, Kenneth Baldwin and Paul Kucera, coming away in 11th and 12th. Mark Robertson had some issues for part of the race. He's in 13th overall. John Morgan in 14th, with Manning Gridden in 15th. 16th is Kenneth Dunner. Behind them is Jay Fields. First cars a lap down behind Daniel Fittler, Stefan Kartner, and Gerard Florzen. All 3 of them had issues, where Joel Martin was the first one to lap down. John Unsby ended up recovering to get at least a 22nd place finish as the last car had one lap down. Those Vendeven's technical issues put him from 2nd, potentially to a podium, potentially to a win, to 23rd. Ralph Kammerer comes away 24th, with David Riley, who had some wild moments at the starting grid, coming away in 25th in this one. The 60-plus racing adventures will come back in just a few moments here for your post-race interviews and more. Be sure to stay tuned here on RaceSpotTV. You're watching the 60-plus racing adventures presented by Antwerp Design. Well, how about that for race number 1 of the season finale? The 60+ Racing Adventures had a doozy of a race here to start things off for the final race of the season. You're watching the 60+ Racing Adventures for Road America. It was a wild finale here for the race number 1. Stefan Rosgen coming away with the victory over Bill Lawrence and Ramaggio DePasca in this one. And we're going to speak with him now and see what he's thinking right now, coming away with the victory. And it was a bit of a wild one for sure in this one. Stefan, how are you feeling about coming away on top in this one?
Yeah, this was a neat story at the end. It was a shame that Jos has lost his connection. So I think the race was a lot of luck. I had some problems in the beginning, had 2 contacts, and then had a computer problem. I'm running with a new computer and with a new screen. Got some Microsoft notifications that updates done, and was in the middle of my screen. I had to click that away, lost two spots on that, and then I decided to go early in the pits. Then I wasn't sure if the limit was limited. At the middle of the race, I knew I could make it, and yeah, then we don't know what happened. Others kicked themselves out.
My goodness, that's a lot to deal with in one race, to say the very least. How was the car handling, if I don't mind you asking, with the way it was running before all of that, and while the race was going on? Because it looked, you had the speed for much of the way. You had the fastest lap time, in fact, of the race of a 2:01.9 in this one.
Yeah, this was with a lot of draft.
I understand that, but how was it handling, and how do you have what kind of setups did you arrange to be able to get that speed for the race, to be able to
we had fixed setups, so nothing special.
Okay. Pardon me with that one there. I just was just asking what kind of specials did there. But coming to race number 2, what do you hope to take from race number 1 and take into race number 2?
Well, it's Draft City here, and you're on. It's a lot of luck. If you get into fights and have bad luck and you have contacts, and so let's see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on the race 1 victory. And that was an interesting race 1 for him to come away on top. Also coming away with an interesting 2nd place, Bill Lawrence. Bill Lawrence, how are you feeling about coming away with the podium finish?
I am feeling terrific, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting race to see in this one here. Stefan mentioned this with the draft today being very important. In your opinion, how did the draft help you in parts of this race to be able to position yourself to be able to get a 2nd place?
Well, the draft was a factor in the first part for me. I missed a couple of shifts and dropped out of the front really quick. The guys were right on me, and of course the draft was good for them. So I pitted a little early and came out behind, but I knew the race would come to me just the way they were going up front and through practice this week. It was intense. Everybody was tight. I knew it was going to be a fight up there, and when they fight like that, they can't go as fast. So when you're running solo, you can make time.
You definitely can make time if there's the back and forth for sure. Of course, race number 2, you have a chance to potentially go a bit higher in terms of this, go from 2nd to 1st. What do you plan to take from race number 1 into race number 2?
Well, I hope to drive an incident-free race and not get in anybody's way and just have a lot of fun. It's a good drafting track, so looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it as well. Lots of drafting today in this one. Congratulations on the podium finish, Bill.
Thanks very much, and thanks, guys, for your coverage this season.
And it was a good run for Bill. Much of the time having to run parts of it on the own, but someone that had a bit of bumps and bruises for some time, being a part of the top 5 at some points, was Manny Gridham. We're going to bring in Manny into the booth now, coming away with just salvaging a top 15 finish. Manning, how are you feeling? Okay, Manning, do you have a copy? And it looks like Manning is not there. Apologies to that. Still came away with a 15th place finish at that. But now it's time to reset and get prepared mentally and get things set up for race number 2. You're watching the 60 Plus Racing Adventures on RaceSpotTV, presented by Edward Design.
Kyle Kimball. I am the Manager of Operations in the Motorsports Department for Mazda North American Operations. We are at Bondurant Racing School here in Phoenix, Arizona, and we are putting on the Mazda Road to 24 shootout. We started with 14 qualifiers that submitted business plans to us, and from those 14, we narrowed it down to 4. Those qualifiers were Celine Roland, Tyler Kucera, John Allen, and Preston Partes.
For me, the first session was just, the memorization piece of the track. I probably was halfway through the session before I felt like there were 2 or 3 places I could push. Now I knew what was next. I already see some differences in preference of, how people approach certain turns, or certainly the braking into the first chicane is a little bumpy. So there's a lot to learn, but that's part of the fun.
So as a judge, what we're looking for from these drivers is the opportunity that they take the information that we give them. They can then make themselves a better driver on the racetrack, and then we get to see that instantaneously the next session when we go out there. So we can see whether they can listen to us and comprehend what we're saying, put it into practice, and then see the results.
I'm Jonathan Bomarito. I race the Mazda factory RT24P prototype for Mazda in the IMSA series. We've had 4 really impressive guys here today, all going for a $100,000 scholarship to run in the MX5 Cup series next year.
I'm Preston Partes. I'm from New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Actually, I've had iRacing since 2010, so I'm a 5-star gold member on the forums. Nothing like hopping on, with a few buddies and do a few sessions, but it's great when you're learning a track. There's nothing like physically driving a racetrack. You can look at video data, but nothing does justice to where you want to really place your car, and it really transfers really well. I think you need to do it nowadays.
Hi, I'm Tyler Kucera. I'm an at-large nominee here at the shootout, Spec Miata racer, and won a couple championships in SCCA and NASA. iRacing is, I think, a huge tool, great tool for me to prepare for race weekends and just hone my craft and stay sharp when I'm not actually at the track.
Hey, my name is Salim Rayan, 9th-year Mazda racer. I currently race Spec Miata. Honestly, the first thing I thought of when I got in this car was how similar it is to iRacing.
Took us one final session, but we do have a winner of the $100,000 value scholarship into the 2018 Mazda MX-5 Cup, and that winner is Celine Roland. Congratulations.
It's incredible knowing that now I'm a Mazda factory driver. I work for Mazda, Classic Mazda in Orlando, Florida, and now I'm a Mazda factory driver. It's kind of my life now, even more than it was before. Just a professional race car driver. That's what everyone's dream is, and my dream has become a reality.
One driver of note, John Allen, came here today mainly with an iRacing background, and it was pretty impressive, actually, I must say, how he started off. That he drove 3 sessions, every session solid improvement, lap times were coming down, I was very impressed actually with his approach, and a lot of that comes through the iRacing, and you really see how beneficial that is for these drivers trying to come up through the ladder.
I've just started to watch my son get involved in iRacing, and it wasn't available when I was around, so I'm really captive now about how it can increase the ability for a driver to come to a racetrack and know the racetrack and really have a good feel of what to expect, and we're seeing that with all the iRacing competitors that we've had come through the program so far. And this year with John Allen, and I've already said this to him, remarkably impressed with how well he has done.
So through our partnership with iRacing, John Allen beat 17,000 other online racers to make it here today, which in and of itself is an incredible accomplishment. He showed today that he absolutely deserved to be with the 3 other drivers on track. He showed consistency and learning every single time he was on the track. He was in 3 sessions, and each session he got faster, sometimes by a half a second. The progression that he showed throughout the day was absolutely tremendous.
I'm pleased with my performance. I'm pleased with the feedback I got, the opportunity to get the level of coaching that we did. My goal right now is to make it back here next year, you know, through the real world competition, and just make it back as an at-large bid. I know a little more about the process. It leaves me better prepared to come back and attack. No doubt, you know, the list is long of people to thank. My wife and our dog, and they were just fun road trips. We even snuck a family reunion in between 2 of the events this year, and to that end, my family, you know, supporting me in this. They don't need to understand it, they just know I love it, and that's enough for them to support me and push me further. Clearly, the practice I received over the last few years using iRacing is very applicable. To come out here and do a serviceable job, even a highly competitive job, is almost entirely due to that. So I intend to still be a regular on there and continue honing my skills and find some more tracks to translate that to next year.
This is Circuit de la Sarthe, known around the racing world simply as Le Mans. Since 1923, this track in western France has been home to the world's original 24-hour endurance race. Coupled with the likes of the legendary Indianapolis 500 and the Monaco Grand Prix, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is widely regarded as the world's most prestigious endurance race, and it forms a part of motorsport's Treble Crown. The first race was held on the outskirts of Le Mans back in 1906 and was called the French Grand Prix, the first Grand Prix of its kind. It was run on public roads, with one lap of the circuit stretching just over 103 kilometers. Then, in 1922, the secretary of the AECO, Georges Durand, was given 100,000 francs to facilitate and devise a new race for the region. Durand took this as an opportunity to stage something completely unheard of, a 24-hour endurance race that would push the modern race car to its limits, where manufacturers would prove their worth to the world. Durand's original Circuit de la Sarthe stretched 17.2 kilometers and was entirely comprised of public roads. It ventured into the city of Le Mans and stretched to a tight hairpin, before venturing on to the 8-kilometer long Mulsanne Straight. In 1929, the hairpin was bypassed due to safety concerns with expanding town suburbs, and safety was always a thing that changed and progressed the racetrack over the years. In 1932, the track as we know began to take shape. That was prompted by the construction of a new 1.5 kilometer bypass running from the start-finish area to the new entrance of the Mulsanne Straight, the now infamous Tête Rouge corner. This section featured the fast first curve that remains today, and what would later become the location of the famous Dunlop Bridge. Now, back in 1923, it was a field of 33 drivers that competed in the inaugural event, and their average speed, 57 miles an hour. By 1956, the field had increased to 49 cars, and they were running at nearly twice the average speed, at 104 miles an hour. As the cars became quicker and the competition rose, the track continued to evolve. For example, in 1972, the final section of the track was completely reconfigured to bypass the dangerous Maison Blanche kink. This included the addition of the Porsche curves and the revised Ford chicanes to slow the cars on the run from Anage corner to the start-finish line. These features remain today. One of the then traditional aspects of the race was the Le Mans start. Drivers would stand across to the track where the cars were parked, and then at the drop of the French tricolor, they ran to their car, climbed in, fired the engine, engaged first gear, and pulled away in a cloud of exhaust and burned rubber. Not surprisingly, this was discontinued for safety reasons, as drivers would either rush to buckle their seatbelts, they didn't even bother buckling them at all. Dan Gurney, who together with AJ Foyt won the 1967 race, famously recounted using his knees to steer his Ford GT Mark II on their opening lap at speeds well above 200 miles an hour whilst he fastened his seatbelt. Since 1971, Le Mans has reverted to the more traditional rolling start used throughout endurance racing today. Le Mans will ever be known as the proving ground for car manufacturers and a lifelong dream for drivers. It continues to rank as the pinnacle of endurance racing that inspires similar races to take shape around the world. Things like the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, or the 24 Hours of Spa, or the Rolex 24 at Daytona. But there will only ever be one Le Mans. Experience Le Mans on iRacing.
Welcome back, everyone, to RaceSpotTV for more coverage of the 60-plus Racing Adventure Series for Road America. It's the season finale, race number 2, coming right on up as the championship battles start to get even more so closer and more interesting for the final race of the season, race number 2. I'm Justin Britzel. On me in the booth today is Hugo Ruiz again with the production, as it has been a wild race. Racing day, I should say. Race number 1, the draft, paid very much big importance in this one. If you did not have the speed to keep up the draft, you fell back. And as you can see, your winner for race number 1 is currently locked on the pole for the time being. Stefan Rosgen currently up on top with about 5.5 minutes to work with. He's got a 2:03 flat as his time right now. That is 0.3 of a second faster than Steven Karkner. Karkner had a good standing start for race 1, led for part of the way last time, ended up having some trouble, which ended up cycling all the way back to outside the top 20. As you can see, though, more drivers are still trying to slot themselves in, record their first times, and try and go around the racetrack. Daniel Fiddler is a part of that group. Manning Grennan also slotted himself up to 4th. Bill Lawrence, who came up to 2nd, he is in the 5th for qualifying for the time being. Here's the interesting thing with Lawrence right now. He was in the points battle in the 4 drivers that could move up to win the championship today. He got himself 30 points in the race. Unsby did not, earned only 4 points in that race. depending on how things cycle, he could end up as the champion. But here's the thing. For this series, for those who just tuned in and have not followed the 60+ Racing Adventure series, with the series, your best result for one of the 2 races counts for the points. Meaning, say you have a bad first race. You have a chance to recover for the second race and get some more points and a better result for the standings for the driver and the team standings. So that is going to be very interesting, where how do these drivers line up? It's going to be a big time question to see if they do so and if they can have the best run. But for right now, virtual P1 of the standings belongs to Bill Lawrence in the driver's standing. Meanwhile, there's also other honors we should mention for this series. The Super 70s Championship is one of the other series championships being held in this situation. The Super 70s Championship has already been locked up by Unsby. For those wondering what the Super 70s Championship is, it's for drivers 70 years or older. That's a special honor for those drivers on the roadside. They also had an Oval Championship wrap up with an oval race at the 2008 Phoenix layout. Who won the race but finishes second in the points, as Morgan comes away with the championship in that. John Morgan, your Oval Championship winner for the season. Meanwhile, the team championships, again, to remind you, very interesting. Team Otto and Team Morgan were the ones battling after race 1. Going to be interesting to see how they cycle up for race 2. You see now what the points are that came into today's events. Remember, that is pre-race 1. That's going to be interesting to divide out. Use your calculators, use your math, because it's going to be interesting. Meanwhile, Andrew Fiddler has moved up to second in the qualifying boards, along with Bill Lawrence moving up to 3rd spot. They're still a 10th back of Stefan Rosgen. They have both had some decent times. You're following along with Fitterer, who has recorded already 2 laps. As you can see, for Team Old Speed, he's in the 5th spot. He'll try and get himself a decent finish. He had a fast car. We'll see if he can get himself into a situation where he doesn't have trouble and gets cycles on back. But damn, 2 drivers have not recorded times, Fred McIntosh and David Riley so far. 23 drivers are getting set to go. David Riley, in fact, just pulled into his pit stall. In fact, not credited with a single recorded lap time for this qualifying session in this one. So it's drivers, some of them taking chances to practice from here on out. Manning Grennan is currently up on your screen now. He is again moved back to 6th spot. After everything, or in the early portions of qualifying, he had been in the top 5. For Manning Grennan, he'll see if he can improve on a 15th place finish in this one. He's in a decent spot again to do so. And he was in that hunt to battle for the lead before Calamity Corner started off out of the Morian sweep into turn number 5 for race 1. We'll see if he can have the best run he can possible at this point. He is, in fact, the only driver left on the racetrack just trying to practice himself out. Paulo Kucera will have to start at the back as he is just getting ready to jump into the cockpit for his car with a minute left to go in qualifying. Everything should be locked up to go for the starting grid. Should be safe to say. Let's go take a look at that starting grid, because Stefan Rosgen, he had the fastest lap in qualifying this time, 2:03 flat, with Andrew Fiddler starting on the outside of row 1. Bill Lawrence and Stephen Karkner will start in row number 2. They are about 2/10 back of the pole time. Row number 3, Donnell Fitterer and Manny Grenning will try and recover from row number 3 today to have a good race number 2. John Morgan and Mark Robertson are in row number 4. Joel Martin and Franz Brank are in row 5, with Bruce Poole and Kenneth Dummer just a second out in 11 and 12. Kenneth Baldwin and John Hill are in 13th, 14th. Gerard Florescent and John Unsby will start 15th and 16th spots. Jos Van de Ven will start all the way at the back this time, 1.2 seconds off the pole time. He'll try and get himself back to the front. Charles Gilly in 18th. Jay Fields is in 19th, with Paul Hamilton rounding out the top 20. Last recorded time for qualifying, Ralph Kucera along with Paul Bassaro. As the non-recorded time, also non-recorded times, David Riley and Fred McIntosh. They'll set up once again, standing grid, 18 laps is the distance. Track temp this time, much air temp I should say, 78 degrees Fahrenheit once again. 88 degrees is the track temp with 85% humidity. They'll try and line up here and hope they don't stall out. Remember, 2 drivers stalled out on the standing grid last time. Will they have the similar situation this time? And will they have a situation where they pile up down the Road America straight before they enter turn 1? It's going to be about who's going to have the best strategy, who's going to be able to time things out and be able to maximize the draft as much as possible here for these 18 laps. The final race for the 2018 season finale. Round number 12 is going to have a wild finale for sure. Points implications, points battles, one more driver getting ready to come out on the grid. A lot of these drivers having some good setups. A lot of drivers trying to recover, trying to focus and try and get themselves mentally ready to go all out to try and come away with race number 2's victory potentially here. Everyone just about set to go for the start of this race. Remember, strategy in this race, most drivers pitted by about lap 10 of the race to go into the pits. Lap time for pit stops, I should say, ranging by the time they got in and out of the stalls about 15 seconds. Longest pit delta in the iRacing service as they get all set to go in this one. Everyone revving their engines, holding in their clutches, waiting for the green light, and away they go here for race number 2 of the 60+ Racing Adventures. No one stalls on the grid this time as Rosjan gets a very big time jump over Andrew Fiddler and Bill Lawrence. Karkner falls into line. Big time late braking from Joe Morgan as they lead in the behind. Turn number 1's going to have some bit of chaos there as everyone gets away fairly cleanly. Kenneth Baldwin had a close call with John Unsby along with Venda Ven behind them along with Jay Fields. They're still 2x2 and there's the contact into turn number 3. Paul Hamilton just barely avoided contact. John Unsby got a huge amount of contact, almost a wheel-to-wheel. Paul Hamilton, you see him, had to really stop on the brake to avoid slamming to the back wing of the traffic out in front. But they're now single file for the most part to start things off. Coming down the Moraine Sweep, coming into turn number 5. Very clean for the most part once again, as Kenneth Baldwin, not wanting to wait, almost dived it underneath of Kenneth Dummer for the position. John Hill will go to the bottom side. Can't make the pass work behind. There's still everyone single file, everyone trying to feel themselves up and try and position themselves to try and get themselves for the slingshot around his big time contact past 14th. And that was a near close call, big time close call, and that was Kenneth Baldwin who was on the major attack going up the field. He was in 13th-ish. That was in front of John Hill with that scary call. We'll see what happened here. This is around and yep. Wide exit leads to disastrous spinning around like a bottle top. Huge damage. He'll have to take a tow, get some repairs done, and go from there. Meanwhile, battle for third up on your screen going through Canada now. It's currently Stephen Karkner who's up in the 3rd spot for the time being. He had some decent pace up at the front before Andrew Fiddler, along with Rosjan also having some decent speed in the early going. The top 3 pulling away from Daniel Fiddler and Bill Lawrence, with the top time being as they come across the start and finish line to lead lap 1 of this race. Remember that Rosjan mentioned the draft is a big time key. That is a huge key for sure by far. Race number 2 is going to be very interesting here to see who can take advantage of that. Rosjan wanting to make sure no one takes advantage to go on the out, going to the defensive line is Andrew Fiddler. Going to have to hold on for P number 2. Karkner waiting to try and get underneath, has to back off. Bit of a later break, then Fiddler able to cycle himself back up to 3rd for the time being. Everyone meanwhile pretty calm for the most part. Kenneth Baldwin is the only driver off the racetrack in this first couple laps here. Jos Venda Ven though, he's got no speed. Something is wrong with Jos Venda Ven. Venda Ven now in the pits. And did he take his pit stop early? Yes, he did, in fact. On lap 1, mind you, this was something we did not see in race number 1 where someone took their pit stop early. He was back in traffic. Going to be an interesting strategy call, especially with the drop painted key advantage. But he is on his own where he can hot lap for at least a couple laps. Let's go back towards the racing action right now. That is, I believe, John Hill up on your screen right now. That is Unsby up behind him. Why is it important with Unsby? He, of course, came in as the points leader for this race. So he's got to get himself recovered here. He's in 15th spot. Had 4 points in the last race. Remember, there is one drop race. he has to hope that he has a good finish here, potentially with the championships, depending on how it may fall. Meanwhile, how it may fall is going to be interesting to see how it goes up at the front, because Rosjan able to get passed on by, that is Andrew Fiddler, now up to the lead, having to hang on for second spot as Stephen Carter almost followed him through Canada. Really had to back off as Donnell Fiddler now back in the hunt with Bill Lawrence with all the shuffling up at the front. There goes Kartner saying, you know what? I'm getting out of this traffic, following Van de Ven's lead here, going for his pit stop. Second driver to come in here, down to about 45 seconds as Andrew Fiddler, he's going to have to battle for the lead. Rosjan going to the bottom side into turn number 1 down the Road America Straight, able to get the pass done cleanly and easily with the draft once again. Up at the front for once again. Fitterer now still in third. He's going to have to hope he gets a run through the morning sweep to be able to get up to second for him. Bill Lawrence is in fourth. Following him, Manny Grinnan. And behind them, hoping to whiff the draft a bit, is John Morgan trying to recover from being lapsed down. And Mark Robertson, who is trying to recover from smashing his wing into the walls before. As we go side by side almost. That is Fiddler trying to go defensive line again to break up Rosjan's momentum. Able to do so for that time, but the passes have been lately coming out towards Canada, where if you time up the apex where you have the perfect shift, you're able to get on the gas quick enough and potentially even floor it through the kink to work and go and work your way through kettle bottoms, you can make the pass work on the bottom of Canada with turn number 12. Question is, can you time it up? It all comes down to, do you have a good exit to diamond it off the corner for the carousel? That time, Rosjan does not even diamond it this time. This time he's going to try and still time it up with the kink. Able to have the defensive line. Again, it's Fiddler. They're going to go side by side once again as Rosjan having a bit of a draft, but again, that little bit with the carousel really helps a bit because Fiddler this time just has enough of a momentum, even with the draft, to just hang on for the position. That was a good way to keep P1 for the time being. He is up at the front right now once again. Second, Rosjan. Third is Fiddler. Lawrence in fourth. Gridden in fifth. Morgan sixth with Robertson in seventh. Now it's a 7-car train up at the front. 4.2 seconds back is eighth. And Joel Martin with Bruce Poole and Franz Brink rounding out your top 10. Right now we go for the battle of the lead once again up on your screen. That's Fiddler. He's just going to let Rosjan go by on the bottom side once again. Looks like the strategy might be let them trade spots, save a bit of fuel going behind, make the pass again by the time you reach Road America Straight or Canada Corner. Mike is a good idea at this point. Here's the battle up on your screen. Meanwhile, this is around for P number 9, P8. Bruce Poole up to P8 now. Joel Martin falls behind now to P number 9. Having to hold on now, though, to Franz Brink. Franz Brink, he quietly had a top 10 last time. He'll try and get himself improved, and big time of trouble just about because Mark Robertson almost climbed up the back of John Morgan's machine at the back of the train. That was hard braking from Robertson. We'll see the replay up on your screen here. This is when the position battle for the lead happened once again, where Robertson maybe just a little bit of a kiss on the front wing. In fact, he damaged the left front wing from that late braking. Remember, he damaged the front wing after having a fast apex and exit, leading to spin the tires. So pushing a little bit too hard, maybe. Gotta be calm there. You now have damage for sure. Question is, can he keep up with the draft from here on out? Question is now, can we see another position battle for the lead again? Because Fiddler trying to position himself up on the outside, able to make the path, make the line on the outside, going now to the inside, to the right side. He's got the preferred line. Just going to back off. Bit early braking. Rosjan. Everyone kicks up the kitty litter. And everyone cycles again back up at the front. Charles Gilly, meanwhile, up in the pits now. So we have had 4 pit stops at this point. Gilly, he's now getting repairs in this situation. 2 of them, 3 of them, I should say, have been for fuel. Here comes one more. And it's Donnell Fiddler saying, you know what, I'm going to get out of the traffic myself. Going to go for the pit stop and try and make this slow crawl, about 70 kilometers an hour, 45 miles per hour, where you have to basically be patient and hope that you don't get zoomed by. They zoomed on by Charles Gilly, by the way, up on your screen. Andrew Fiddler able to keep the lead for the time being with the bottom side move forward. Meanwhile, Fiddler and Rosjan have both traded the lead with 2 laps apiece to start off this one. Bill Lawrence, he's up to 3rd spot once again with Grinnan in 4th. And at the back of the train now is John Morgan and Mark Robertson, who's just hanging on to this point. Watch Lawrence. He's going to have to hang on with Grinnan because Grinnan's got a decent amount of speed. But Grinnan's going to have to be patient, it looks like, because he's not going to risk going to the bottom of turn 5. He has a perfect apex for turn number 5. But can't get it to work. Underneath the Corvette bridge they go, shifting down, getting back on the gas, shifting up a gear, timing it up now once again for the hurry downs, and hoping you don't get into trouble. Everyone really hitting a rhythm because of very much a drafting track down the Road America straight again and out of the kink. Everyone just being patient. They don't want to... The obvious thing is you don't want to end up going too early. And that's what we're doing at this point. That's what everyone is doing at this point. We're going to probably see Rosjan go for the pass once again, but I think this time it's going to be much more difficult with Fiddler having a decent run through the corner. This time, able to carry more speed, but Rosjan able to get to the bottom side. This time he doesn't back down. They almost touched on contact with wheels as Rosjan able to cycle himself back out to the lead for the time being. Bill Lawrence, he lost a bit of time backing off, thinking it was going to be even bigger contact than that. He's now back to 3rd. Grinnan has to go for the early break to make sure he doesn't hit the wing, and that's going to be enough for Lawrence and enough once again for Robertson. One of the tougher pit entries too, with the uphill, the transition trying to keep as much speed as you can, then getting down to the 45, and then the bump. That is right at the pit entrance. They do it this time. Meanwhile, who's going to do it this time for the pass? Rosjan able to hang on for the pass this time. Able to use the bottom side of the defensive line. Fiddler now with Grinnan and Morgan. John Morgan, he's been able to get himself to where he needs to be for race number 2. Remember, he was a lap down car midway through the race. So he's now in a situation where he can improve on his points day today for the season finale. Morgan continues to follow on, watching the battle up front. Fiddler going to wait again for it to come down for Canada Corner. Very fast exit that time. And he's right on the back wing again. I think he's definitely ready to try and make this pass work once again. If you're just tuning in, you're watching race number 2 of the 60 Plus Racing Adventure season finale from Road America here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, on this 4-mile circuit. Meanwhile, something going on with Ralph Kucera, and this is a bit of interesting situations in front because a wide exit there. That was David Riley, who's trying to recover from a bad race for Team Rusty Nut. So something happening back there for both of them to where it was a bit of a chaotic situation, obviously, where they almost had contact back there at that point. Meanwhile, back up at the front, they're working their way up through the kettle bottoms. Can they work their way up to the bottom to go for a pass? No, they won't. They're going to be, again, single file, very patient again to go from here. All single file, no one making a move. Potentially maybe saving fuel here is Andrew Fiddler. If he's not making the move here, just maybe saving that little extra bit of gas. Rosjan, no, you seen there Fiddler try to go for the bottom side that time. Maybe thought of the pass there. They're going to all stay out. No, Rosjan goes on in and ditches the rest of the field. So he comes on in to the pits from the lead, almost faking out Fiddler and Grinnan and Morgan. They stay out for one more time on the racetrack. So strategies working themselves forward. Those top 3 will be on the roll. Meanwhile, behind them, John Hill is saying, you know what? I'm in the top 5. I'm hungry for a position. Well, Joel Martin, this is going to be tough, though, because look at there. There's Stephen Karkner, who's all the way back in 22nd now, after being in the pits for an extensive period of time. And Joel Martin able to hang on to the spot. Thinking best of it was Hill. Don't want to climb up the back of a car. Charles Gilly also had extensive repairs also in. So 4 drivers in the pits right now. Brink, Houle, McIntosh, a part of that group that are going to be setting up to come out of the pits right now. So a majority of the field's coming, about half of the field. Expect the other half of the next 2 laps. Interesting to see who will go for a hot lap strategy is so forth, I should say, as everyone tries to close up now in the top 3 for the time being. There's the top 3 on your screen. It's about a 0.2 of a second gap again. This is not where you want to go for the pass once again, as Fiddler's going to be patient up at the front. He's going to have to be very defensive with Manning Grinnin, but you should expect to see Fiddler maybe coming this time, but Grinnin maybe want to gain that lead before the pit stops and before they go in for the fuel cycle. Fuel cycle for this race. Most of the field in the 13.6s, one in the 15.9s, one in the 22s as they go side by side. Defensive line for Fiddler. Grinnin goes for the switchback. Up in the sand goes Fiddler. They go side by side, working their way through the Bill Mitchell bend. As Grinnin's on the bottom, can he make that work with the outbreak? No, he's going to be very cautious here. Very likely going to go for the pit stop here, potentially here with that move. This time he is. Exactly what the thought process was, to get himself out of danger for Team Old Speed, as he will go into the pits for the time being. Right now, the interesting thing, it's about a 38.7 second gap to Stefan Rosgen, who went into the pits. He is about 38.8 seconds back, all the way back in Canada corner in 11th spot. He is the first car to come in. Mark Robertson has jumped some of the drivers in the field to come away. Virtual P number 2 for the time being, even with the damaged wing. Behind him, though, he's going to be having to hold off one of his teammates in Bill Lawrence. That's going to be a potential pass coming up now down the road, America Strength. Let's see if they can do it this time here. Front wing should be replaced here with the pit stop potentially for Robertson. But here's the draft situation. Will he get the run, Robertson? Not enough speed to get the pass done, I don't think here. Robertson very close as you watch from the gearbox, but no cigar there. They stay virtual P1 and 2. Right now, one pit stop happened in front of them, and it was Kenneth Dummer. That was the last card for the non-pitters at this point. Now up on your screen, you should see Joel Martin. That is for P number 3. Martin also trying to best his position from the last race. A bit of a struggle last time. Bit of a wider exit, meanwhile, through hurried downs, but he's in a decent spot here. He's got to come in, though, remember. He's about 9 seconds back to the next car, and John Morgan, who is in second with Andrew Fiddler at this point. Will they be able to maintain all of this? Again, the gap to think about, the time to think about. 37.9 is now the time for Stefan Rosgen to some of these drivers as you see them working their way into Canada. Single file, no one going to step out here. Fiddler, though, down the road, America straight he goes. Will he come in? Yes, he will. He will ditch John Morgan, comes in for his pit stop. He's going to be about a 13-second stop. We'll see if he times it up right here. Strategy coming into play. About 10 laps to go at the stripe. He's going to have a few followers coming in. That's Joel Martin. Jannard Florescent quietly up there. Jay Fields coming up on there. So that is going to leave in total to have to come in, as Ralph Kucera comes in now, about 2-3 cars. That's it. That have to come into the pits. Is it going to be enough? Because here comes Stefan Rosgen coming up the front stretch, having to pull from behind as he comes by the flag stand. He's going to pass by a majority of them. Fiddler's moving again. Jumps Fiddler. And again, Rosgen comes out in front. It's going to be Manning Grinnin following him up, though, 0.7 of a second back. So Manning Grinnin has been able to position himself into virtual P number 2. Now, keep your eye on John Morgan for the rest of this lap at this point, because he's on his own. He's got clean air. Question is there enough time to be able to cycle yourself to be in the lead group? This is, of course, part of Team Auto. Having a great race today, clean race today in race number 2. You can see, though, that it's going to be very interesting. Here's the thing. I don't know if it's going to be enough, because in about half a lap, it's been a gain of about 0.7 of a second. 36.2 is now the gap. 36.1 for Stefan Rosgen. You see the gap up on your screen and how he's closing it inch by inch with the faster times, with having a bit of a push, having the fastest drive of the day. Morgan, meanwhile, moves away down the front stretch. He's coming into the pits. John Morgan is in. Should be coming in as well is John Hill. And we should also see Paul Hamilton come in. So Stefan Rosgen should be able to cycle himself into the lead, pending a mistake here. Question is, will John Morgan get it? He was a part of the points battles. He's had a decent season overall. Can he keep up in front? Here we go. Rosgen will move himself up the hill, up the Road America Straight, underneath the Gardner-Denver Bridge, up at the top of the hill, and down towards the flag stand. They're all still in the pits. Moving is John Morgan. He's up to speed. John Hill still on the jacks. Still on the jacks as well. Paul Hamilton. They move right on by John Morgan. Morgan moves to third, but it's going to be a two-car race. Rosgen and Grinnan have moved away from the rest of the field by about 3.5 seconds. And Manning Grinnan just has to time himself right. He had a 15 points finish in race number 1. He's in a great position to lead some laps and potentially win the race here in P number 2. He's going to have to again be patient with the draft. He's got himself lined up. He doesn't want to do it too soon, doesn't want to do it too late, but we should see these guys potentially maybe flip-flop. Speaking of flip-flop, here comes Fiddler and someone with a fast pace. Jos Van de Ven now in 6th spot. He had been in 2nd, battling for the race win before a connection issue in the last race. He'll now go to the bottom side, push up the track Andrew Fiddler. As this is going to be an intense battle here, he's going to have to reset. Wide exit for Fiddler. Van de Ven tries to push him off the racing line. Through hurry downs, can't do anything through turn number 8. He's going to go and do it potentially through the carousel though. They have a huge distance of about 12 seconds up the road to the leaders. It'd be an astronomical gap to close up if they can do it. If they can catch up to the leaders here. Fiddler, he's going to hang on going out of the kink through the kettle bottoms. Meanwhile, trying to hang on again is Rosgen because the gap is down to 0.3 of a second once again. Draft again playing advantage. Grinnan though not as great through the Bill Mitchell bend. They'll move to wade through turn number 14 after crossing over the Hawk Tunnel. Of course, the top tunnel to get in and out of the racetrack, and can't do anything here for this lap. You can see here the view from the Gardner-Denver Bridge. A beautiful view past the flag stand again. Coming down for lap number 11. Manning Grinnan has the run down at the end of the straights. Just can't get to where he needs to quite yet. It's gonna be fun here. Speaking of fun, Van de Ven trying to have some fun and get himself a P number 5. He is able to do so, gets the pass to work in turn number 1. Able to hang on for the time being. You've seen behind them, Bruce Poole cycled back to P number 10 as well, with Gennard Florescent moving back to P number 9 for the time being. Mark Robertson is the next car up with a fresh wing that they're going to have to close up on. As you see, they're very much trying to drive around the racetrack. You can see me while pushing the limits is Grinnan once again, keeping up with the leader. He's right now in the position again in the 2nd spot. You're following on with the gear shift, goes from 4th to 5th. In position, potentially get the gear shift into the 6th gear, I should say. Shifts down quick with a 3. Has to turn very hard to make sure he doesn't go into the sand. And time it up again with the carousel. He's going to ride the bottom line of the carousel, because the line and the way to get the runs has been max it out through the kink. Be able to prepare yourself to go into the bottom, to the right side for Canada Corner. This time, Grinnan can't get low enough to be able to get exactly that time. But can he get something here on Rosgen? This time, I think Rosgen has the upper hand because he did hit the apex perfectly. He hangs on for at least one more set of turns, with John Morgan way on back with 4.5 seconds back at this point on his very lonesome. The very intense action though, because you can see Grinnan, he wants to go. He wants to press that go button, but loses a 10th again on the exit. Just can't get the exit speed to get the job done for race number 2. He'll get the speed down the front stretch. 141 is his speed. Up down to 143, but has to really feather the throttle because he had the speed. Probably thought he was going to run up the back end. Very bad exit again out of turn number 1 because he just went through the gravel. Meanwhile, side by side, battling behind. This is for P number 5 again. Andrew Fiddler saying, fiddle me this, I'm keeping my spot. Vendeven says, taking no more fiddle for you. I want my top 5. As he's going to do so there, pushes Fiddler up the track on the exit. He falls back to 6th, but he has a great spot to get a run potentially for the next couple laps on Jos Vendeven. Lap times on the racetrack, fastest one has been by Stefan Rosgen in this one, 2:03 flat. Pardon me, he has the second fastest at this point because of the draft with Manny Grennan with a 2:02.7 in terms of the speeds. Pardon me on this one. Meanwhile, big time trouble. Bruce Poole collecting into a situation that is Fiddler also a part of that, pardon me. They were going for a position battle. This was inside the top 10. Poole was on the outside line. You can see, I believe that was Martin. Runs to the back of Martin, in fact. Climbing up on top of the wheel is Poole. And Fittler going to have to take the tow. Poole also takes the tow. You see that? That's for less than, pardon me, on that situation. But just a huge collection there. Daniel Fittler going to have to take a DNF for this one. Just not his day. 2 races in a row with that exact situation. Rosgen, meanwhile, will still stay up at the front for at least one more lap. Again, faster on the exit of turn number 14. I think at this point he has the advantage here. Gritton's really trying to push on the exits at this point to be able to try and get the draft done. Potentially even trying to save the fuel, potentially. Maybe he thinks he's short on fuel. That time, though, he said, screw fuel, I want the lead. Thought about it, couldn't even get anywhere close to diving it in for the pass. John Morgan, meanwhile, he's got a bit of a friend starting to close in on him if you look behind from his back wing. Because guess what? Bill Lawrence, he's closed the gap for P number 3 behind the leaders, as you see right in your backdrop. This is right now down to a 1.3 second gap for the 3rd spot right now. Currently the leaders still keeping about the same pace, about the same distance. Brennan still can't get anything to go down the Moriant sweep right now to be able to get the draft he needs to at this point. Up the hills, underneath the Corvette Bridge, underneath turn number 6, over to turn number 7, all the way to Hurry Downs. Just Grinnon's really pushing on every single exit, it seems, to try and get something going here. Because every single exit a bit wide. That time, though, if he keeps on having the exits like he did with just now with Hurry Downs, I think he can actually get the pass done. The draft has been helping him. The thing is, though, he just hasn't been able to get the draft to where he gets it done right. This time, nails the apex, gets a little bounced around. Defensive line already from Rosgen. He knows that the run's here this time for Grennan. Grennan's got it this time. He's going to just cycle back, in fact, down Canada corner. Thought against it. Didn't want to maybe have tire-to-tire contact once again. Just being patient. Surprised that time because he had the pass, but here's the thing I want to mention here. I mentioned this a couple times in race number 1. Race number 2 is going to be the same situation. You make the pass too early, you're not going to win the race. Might be the thought here. Gritton knows he's got him right where he needs to be. It's down to 2/10 once again. Will he make the pass in turn 1 this time? He's got a huge run. He's got to make it in turn number 1. Can they outbreak each other? Gritton with a perfect apex. And he's got himself the lead. Manning Gritton will take the lead for the first time in the race. Question is, can he hang on for about 5 more laps for this 4-mile circuit? Unbelievably done there. He took multiple laps to set it up, set him up, but Rosgen saying, you may have set me up that time, but I'm going to go for it this time once again. Down to the bottom of turn 5, makes it with ease to be able to make the pass done. And Manny Grennan will have to do it again. Once again, have to go for the pass. Meanwhile, we cycle on back to outside the exit. Remember that battle I was mentioning? Well, Ben Morgan just took away third spot. And our battle starting to form up with Robertson and Hill. Hill, he's on the bottom, almost spun the back tires and almost spun himself right to the concrete. He's staying on the bottom side, though, with Mark Robertson on the preferred line for turn number 7. He's going to keep the spot for now and cycle on in. It's going to be patient again for the time being. As this, you see there, I mentioned this before, that's the visual damage there again, with no wing, with the wing now repaired again with Robertson. That's really helping him. Remember, he had huge damage that hurt him with the draft for the end of the last run. Speaking of big-time run chances, Rosejen had to go to the defensive line for Manning Grinning this time, knowing that Grinning is starting to get faster and faster and faster, with this 0.3 of a second faster lap time due to the draft. Shifts down the third gear for exit, times it up, doesn't go in the grass this time, still in a great spot to make the pass again into turn number 1. It's going to be Rosejen leading the lap this time, but it's going to be Manning Grinning going to lead out of turn number 1 if he can time this up. Times it up with a beautiful arc, able to make the pass done, and Rosejen says, you're going to just go out in front for now, but I'm going to get your pass right on back down the Moriang sweep. Can he do it? That's the question. He did it easily last time. He's set up perfectly to do it easily this time. As Grinnon's going to move to the right side of the track. Rosejen has all the time in the world on the left side of the track. And again, they're going to go back and forth like a pendulum, like a swing. Going to go for the lead again. Rosejen swings his way back to the lead. Are they going to push their way forward again? This is a bit of a fun battle again. Remember, Manning Grinnon has still not led a single lap in this race. He's not led a single lap by. Speaking of back and forth, Jose Van de Ven again has to go back and forth for P number 5. Andrew Findler tried to go for it down the Moriang sweep that time. Couldn't do it that time. Bad exit of turn number 6, pardon me. That time in turn number 7, able to just keep the momentum though. He can't make a pass whatsoever in that part of the racetrack by far. And Findler knows it. It's all about the carousel exit all the way to Canada Corner. He's got himself set up. Findler gonna go for it this time. Has to get the draft, has to have the perfect kink. Can he get the kink down this time? Yes, he can. He's gonna move to the right side. Van de Velde is just gonna let him on by on the left side. Findler on the right side. Gonna have to outbrake him though through Canada Corner because Van de Velde does not back off easily sometimes here. And through Canada, Findler takes P number 5 for now again. By the way, with the lead up at the front, it's back to 0.4 of a second for the time being because it's going to be Grinning going to have to time it up for the next lap. 3 laps to go this time. Here comes Grinning once again. He knows the pass has been coming too early down into turn number 1. This time, cycles on back. You see with the draft that it's dead even just about in terms of time lost in the past 3 laps and time gained. No one having an advantage here. Speaking of trying to get an advantage for position, Van de Ven going to the bottom, gets the pass, gets the position to keep B number 5. He's going to stay on the bottom now with Findler now trying to set himself up on the outside. They're going to go for the very defensive line. Van de Ven knows that is a very difficult line, a very difficult time to set up. Findler, though, has the huge amount of speed with the draft. He'll go to the bottom again for another pass. He'll go and get P5 for at least half a lap. At this point, as you can tell, if you're near a car, you can go for any position battle. Like John Hill, he just got a position battle and able to get himself up to P number 7 finally as you watch from the suspension angle. As Mark Robertson for Team Morgan tries to keep up. Bit of a higher apex, but makes it work. Hill, though, defensive line, surprisingly. Robertson tries to take advantage, tries to go on the preferred line on the outside, really pushing the car through the carousel here to try and get a position. Let's see if he can get it done here because Robertson is in the tow. He is set up for the potential pass in the kink. He's got the speed again, 141 to 139 in that section of the racetrack. Bit of a harder line to pass up. Robertson just breezes on by to the left side. Doesn't have to worry even about outbraking the driver. Gets his position right on back, like easy as pie. This is going to be a difficult battle up though here for Manny Grinning. Grinning has been battling for lap after lap. With 2 laps to go, he retakes the lead. Here is the question. The Maurienne sweep has been right where Rosgen has been able to get it back. Grinning has not taken the defensive line yet. Does he do it here and move to the left side of the racetrack? They go under the Sargento Bridge. It's going to be side by side. Rosgen going for the pass again. No defensive line for Grinning. They're going to go side by side, wheel by wheel. Grinning tries to outbreak him. Rosgen pushes him up the track on the entry. And he retakes the lead once again to a 0.2 of a second gap. And again, pass too early. Pass can't be sustained. Now, it's going to be a question of, does Grinning get himself figured out to go out of the kink to set himself for Canada corner? Everyone's really separated themselves out a bit now behind them. Bill Lawrence is separating himself out from John Morgan for 3rd spot at this point. Potentially has secured himself up with the podium. It's going to be, right now, Fiddler potentially trying to hold on for the 5th spot. There's 2-3 different battles for positions up on the racetrack at this point, all within 0.3 of a second to 0.6 of a second. That could be determining who's on the podium, who is not from here on out. Something going on, though, with Jos van de Ven because he has just lost a heck of a time through the carousel. A full 0.6 of a second loss to Andrew Fiddler. That could lose him, P number 5. He had the speed in race number 1, couldn't do so here. But here comes the white flag. It's going to be up at the flag stand, up the Road America straight they go. Up comes Manny Grinning in the gear number 5. Will he shift up? Yes, he will to gear number 6. He might have to go for it aggressively here. Rosgen knows he has to go to the bottom. Here comes Grinning. They go side by side into turn number 1. Rosgen able to have a perfect apex to be able to keep the spot. He is on the spot he needs to be, though, for turn number 3. Almost wheel-to-wheel contact. That pushes up Grinning up on the exit. Big time separation in time, down to 0.6 of a second now for Rosgen. Now it's going to be about regrouping and regaining the time for Team Old Speed's Manny Grinning. Already taking the defensive line was Rosgen. Late braking by far for Grinning as you follow along with him, shifting all the way to gear number 3. Sometimes today it's been all the way only to 3rd. He's really trying to max out the RPMs. Perfect line, not on the bumps that time. Hits the grass on the entrance, in fact, as they enter the way through Hurry Downs. The gap's down to 0.4 once again. Late braking again. Huge tire smoke once again up in the sand. That could cost him the race. Manny Grinning tried to keep the speed and ended up blowing the exit of Hurry Down. They say it's Hurry Down for a reason. Well, he tried to hurry up and gain time there, could not do it. And now, 0.8 of a second is the gap. Bit of a chaos, meanwhile, in turn number 5. We'll show you that with Jay Fields and Joel Martin after this finish. Because for Stefan Rosgen, he's been dominant in race number 1. He ended up coming away and dominating this time, based on pure speed this time, with 12 laps out of 18 laps led. Stefan Rosgen, he'll have a perfect turn 14 and go up the racetrack and win race number 2 at the season finale for the 60 Plus Racing Adventures season finale from Road America. A great sweep for Stefan Rosgen over Manny Grinning this time. This battle, you see up on your screen, heating up a little bit. Fiddler able to hang on for P number 5. Lawrence and Morgan were the positions for 3rd and 4th up in front of them. Van de Ven able to get to 6th spot. That's not enough for a point. Robinson just able to hang on, meanwhile, in front of John G. Hill. For John Unspe, meanwhile, Is it going to be enough points for him? He finishes in 9th spot in this race. Able to improve from just 4 points earned from a outside top 20 finish. Next closest battles up on the racetrack. It's Kenneth Dummer right now with Franz Brink. 0.2 of a second. Brink, he'll try and go for the bonsai move, but has to go early braking. He'll just cut his losses. Go for P number 14 after the chaos for part of the racetrack. Franz Brink able to come away with 14. Kenneth Dummer come away with 13th spot. Paul Hamilton, Fred McIntosh, Jannar Flausen, coming out right in front of them. Jay Fields able to salvage a 15th place finish as you see them stopping on the racetrack. Before we show the results, it was a chaotic turn number 5 of the Morian sweep for Joel Martin. If we can key that one up for him, because that was a pile-up for 2 different drivers for him, and I believe it was one of the red cars. You see him stop on the track there a little bit earlier than that. This is it right here, because he had a bit of a trap coming up behind. Can't tell who exactly the driver is there. That was Martin. Early braking just got ran over with the brake lockup. Ends up damaging the back wing. That was Jay Friels, who came away with the 15th place finish after that. See this right here, Team Old Speed with the speed. Ends up running back over him, not like he was standing still. Ends up coming away 15th. DNF for Joel Martin. Unable to make it to the checkered flag. But let's check out the results here for race number 2 for the season finale. Stefan Rosgen had a win in race number 1. Gets the sweep for the season finale. Wins race number 2 by 0.5 of a second over Manning Gridden. He tried as hard as he can, but one mistaken hurry downs cost him any chance for getting enough speed to make the pass. Bill Lawrence, he secured himself in P number 3, ended up pulling away from John Morgan in the last couple laps. Team Morgan beats Team Otto. Meanwhile, Andrew Fiddler comes away in P number 5. John Van de Ven was the position driver he was battling with for P number 6. Mark Robertson hangs on for 7th over John G. Hill. John Unsby recovers for a top 10 finish in 9th. Paul Hamilton rounds it out with a 10th place finish. Very quiet day for him, but comes away with that. Fred McIntosh, didn't talk much about him at all in race number 1. Comes away 11th. Joe Floressen comes away 12th. Kenneth Dummer on front of Franz Brink for P number 13 and 14 respectively. Jay Friels, after that wreck you've seen on the last lap, able to somehow make it to P number 15 over David Riley by 3 seconds. Steven Karkner, he had some troubles. He came in for a pit stop, then spent extensive amount of time with that. That was involving situations, potential contact maybe, with Charles Gilly following them off. He also had extensive repairs. Ralph Kammerer comes away 19th. First car lap down with the DNF is Joel Martin with that situation. We've seen Pablo Bassaro, not his day for Team Italian Turtles for race number 2. 21st position is the way he finishes off. Bruce Poole and Donnell Fitterer, along with Kenneth Baldwin, round out your top 24 and your field for the season finale for race number 2. It was definitely a race where the draft played big time advantage for everyone. A race where Stefan Rosgen seemed to be the class of the field, especially for race number 2. Why don't we bring him on in and see how he is feeling after this one? Sweeping the day for the season finale. How are you feeling about getting the sweep with 2 straight victories for the season finale?
Oh, that's not the worst feeling. Nice race.
It definitely isn't the worst feeling. That's this race for sure. It was another close one. You had battling with Manny Grennan using the draft. He ended up having to use the draft a lot of times. But I've noticed a lot of times you have to speed down the Morian sweep with the draft after he made the passes a lot of times. Talk us through that battle you had with him in the final stages and what was going through your head as Grennan was trying to time out the passes and try and hope that he can hang on in front from what it seemed.
I was quite confident that, well, I was not nervous, to be honest. If it was, then I'd be nervous, but I wasn't nervous for Manning, no.
Yeah, as you said, you had a good car. You had a good, again, you mentioned with the draft being a big-time focus in this one, it was definitely coming into play for sure in that the way you set up the draft a lot after the pass with that. I want to ask you this, of course, this was the season finale today. You had a decent season overall. How are you feeling now that you have finished off your season finale?
For some private reasons, this was not an important season. I just came in without practice and enjoyed the racing. That was the season. I didn't want to do something today. I just came in and looked what happens. So it went well. I'm glad it went well.
It went well indeed. 8 total races, I should say, competed in for this season. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you get going?
Yes, I want to thank you guys from RaceSpotTV. It's always fun for me to listen to the show afterwards and to share it with my friends. And of course, I want to say thank you to the organizers of that league. Fantastic job.
Thank you very much, and it was a fantastic race. Congratulations on getting the victory in both races today. It was definitely a good run for him with the draft today. Manning Grennan able to come and recover and from a 15th place finish after situations with him for a 2nd place finish in this one. Manning, how are you feeling about getting a 2nd place finish in this one?
I got more than I deserved, probably. It was wonderful being able to tag on to Stefan's bumper and just let him drag me around the course. He is way fast. I had hoped, with the draft, it was easy to keep up, and I had bluffed him coming down the back straight for the last 10 laps, not showing him any power, because I figured if I passed him, he'd just pass me back again. But that, forgive me, I don't know the names of the turns. That right-hander at the end of the back, is that California? Anyway,
Canada.
Canada, thank you. I figured I could take him at Canada, and so I just bed my time, if that's the word. And sure enough, I blew the corner beforehand. So that was it. But he deserved to win. He's a better driver than I am.
Yeah, it was definitely good action for sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, positioned himself in decent amounts of times in this one. And of course, it was a good bounce back too from race number 1, where you ended up finishing off 15th in this one. For you to come away in 2nd, how does it feel for you now to be able to recover from that in race number 1, to be able to have a very good podium finish in race number 2?
Well, I don't really view that as a bounce back. I was in the lead pack when I got knocked out. So, it wasn't like I was running at number 15 pace. But yeah, it felt great. I love being up at the top. These guys are really good, and the closer to the top you get, the cleaner it gets. It's just a lot of fun.
It definitely looked like a lot of fun. I want to ask you this, of course, with the season finale with you. I believe this was your 9th or 10th race of the season, pardon me, where you had definitely some good times here. How are you feeling now that the season's over, that you get a chance to take a deep breath and look at what you've done for this season overall?
Yeah, I think I should have done a little better, but I'm happy to be where I am. I think I've reached a stage at this simulator that I'm not making leaps and bounds better and better. I'm kind of leveling off to my own level, and that level, fortunately, is reasonably high. So this season's fun. The only thing that I'm not interested in are the ovals, so I just took that week out. But everything else is great, and this group of people are not only really fast, but really pleasant to be around.
That's definitely a good thing to hear, and definitely a good thing to have when it comes to having a good series, to where you love being around the people you're racing against. Anyone you want to thank before we let you get going?
my pit chief has done a spectacular job. I'd like to thank him. Thanks for everything that you guys do. We really appreciate it.
And thank you for everything you do behind the wheel and everywhere else. Congratulations on the second place finish here to end off the season finale. And of course, coming away with the third place finish, having his second in the last one, is Bill Lawrence. Coming away with third. Bill, you had a good day overall today in both the races. How are you feeling?
I feel terrific, Justin. Thank you. It was a good race, both races.
It was for sure. You had some pretty good battling for part of the race too after the pit stops with John Morgan. Talk us through what your strategy was compared to the first one and the battling you had to try and get yourself enough of a distance to secure yourself the podium finish.
Yeah, well, I have to work on my pit stops. I'm coming out too slow, coming in too slow. Anyway, with John, I was just running solo there and watching my times and trying to put down some good laps to get in draft distance, which we finally did with a few laps to go. And then it was just, do I pass him now or wait till really closer to the end, because then he's got the opportunity on me. So it worked out.
Definitely worked out. I want to also ask this with you because you came into today was one of the four drivers who had a chance to take the overall road championship. The second place finish ended up getting you above Unsby in total, according to my math at this point. In the terms of the championship, it was definitely some good battling for you. How were you feeling about the season as a retrospective to be able to, at the very least, come away with a second place championship finish, if not the championship, depending on how the math is tabulated out?
Yeah, it was a great season. I only missed one race. I normally can't make them all, but the one race I missed, my wheel blew up, so I couldn't score any points there at all. But I feel great about it, and John and I, we've had some great battles, and I really enjoy racing with him and the rest of the guys. So I do want to give a shout out to my team members, because we were running in second place, 1 point out at first coming into this race, Team Morgan, and they've been doing a terrific job all season as well. So shout out to those guys.
Definitely a shout out for sure. Of course, with the team, you're mentioning the team championship standings. That was also very close coming into this one. Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of what was a really good season for you, Bill?
Just the league. There's a bunch of really good guys in here. We're having a lot of fun. If anybody wants to join us and is over the age of 60, we'd love to have you. It's a great group.
Thank you very much, and it's definitely a great group for sure. Congratulations, and congratulations on what has been a really, really good season for you. At least guaranteeing the top two finish, if not being your championship for this season.
Yeah, I don't know how the points work, Justin, but I'm hoping it's one, but I'll take two if needed, that's for sure.
Thank you very much. Now with that, of course, today was definitely some great action all around the racetrack. A lot of math has to be added on up. But for the end of the season, as Bill said, it's about the group, about having a good league, a good group of drivers to take part against and race against and compete against and really learn with. If you don't enjoy being a part of something for an entire season, it's very difficult. For these guys, it is definitely a good group to be a part of course, with the 60-plus racing adventures. Although the season's done, a lot of these guys have a lot to think about and a lot of good memories. Once again, this season is done for the season, but for now, it is time to say goodbye. This was the season finale, the 60-plus racing adventures from Road America. I was Justin Prince. Hugo Ruiz was doing the producing for today. Without you, everything would catch on fire for sure in this one. Meanwhile, the TV cameras provided by Esteban Balaru, overlay designs by Andres Werner and N1 Design. Check out those designs and check out his website if you want to stay tuned. And thank you to the rest of our sponsors as displayed up on the screen here for RaceSpotTV. Lots of broadcasts going on for the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend. Later on tonight on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV, it'll be the East Speed Contender Series. The longest race of the year is starting up at Charlotte. Who will come out on top out of that group? Tune in and find out at about 9 p.m. Eastern Time. But for now, it's time to say so long and have a good night. It's been a great season for the 60 Plus Racing Adventures.